It's April 28, 2017, and 1 p.m. at the Great Exuma Island in the Bahamas. The scene is chaos as thousands of festival goers are stuck on a dirt runway, some of them crying. The sun beats down relentlessly on the makeshift festival grounds, with trash and debris scattered everywhere. Attendees were promised a luxury experience, but instead, they found themselves stranded with inadequate food, water, and shelter. Panic and desperation spread as the reality of their situation sets in. The once lush greenery has been ravaged by the hasty construction of tents and stages. The air reeks of gasoline fumes and decaying food. Broken promises of gourmet meals and luxury accommodations now feel like a cruel joke. Festival goers wander aimlessly, their faces etched with frustration and disappointment. Some are seen trying to make phone calls, while others have given up, lying under the shade of a few remaining trees. The mastermind behind this debacle is none other than 25-year-old Billy McFarland, the young entrepreneur with a charismatic smile and a penchant for grandiose ideas. He's dressed in a white t-shirt and a baseball cap, his eyes fixed on his phone as he tries to respond to the mounting criticism. With a portfolio that includes his previous business ventures like Magnus's and Fyre Media, McFarland seemed like the epitome of millennial success. But beneath the facade of wealth and prestige, he's been secretly manipulating investors and attendees for his own gain. His eyes dart back and forth, searching for a way to salvage the situation. Witnesses described the sound of helicopters hovering above the festival grounds, their rotors creating a deafening roar. Some claim to have seen McFarland's private jet taking off into the distance, leaving the stranded festival goers behind. Others recount seeing luxury tents that were supposed to be reserved for VIP guests, instead filled with trash and debris. The air is thick with tension as festival goers try to make sense of the chaos unfolding around them. As the situation spirals out of control, it becomes clear that this is more than just a failed festival, it's a full-blown scam. Before we go further, hit subscribe and the bell. We post new cases every single day. Let me take you back to the very beginning of this story, back to the early days of Fyre Media and Billy McFarland's rise to fame. We'll explore how a young entrepreneur with a charismatic smile and a knack for self-promotion managed to swindle investors out of millions and deceive thousands of festival goers with promises of a luxury experience. It all began with a small business called Magnus's, a card-based club marketed for millennials that raised $1.5 million in funding. McFarland's next venture, Fyre Media, was a mobile app that aimed to connect music talent with festivals and events. But it was the Fyre Festival, co-founded with rapper Ja Rule, that would become his most infamous project yet. With its promises of luxury accommodations and gourmet meals, the festival was touted as the ultimate experience for millennials, but behind the scenes, McFarland was cooking up a recipe for disaster. Our central figure in this case is William Zervakos McFarland, known to us as Billy McFarland, born on December 11, 1991, and at the time of these events, living in New York City. Billy McFarland grew up in a loving family but had a troubled childhood, dealing with anxiety and depression, which would later shape his life choices. Despite this, he was an ambitious young man, determined to make a name for himself in the business world. By his early 20s, McFarland had already started his entrepreneurial journey, working on various projects, some of which, however, raised eyebrows. It's clear that McFarland had an innate ability to present himself in a charming light, winning the trust of friends, family, and investors. To those who knew him, Billy McFarland seemed like a confident, charismatic, and ambitious young entrepreneur driven by his passion for innovation and disruption. His daily life was a mix of networking events, pitching his business ideas to potential investors, and meeting with friends and business partners over a drink or two. He was well liked by his peers and seemed to effortlessly charm those around him, often making big promises without realizing the consequences. McFarland's charm, coupled with his youthful energy, made him a natural at social events, effortlessly connecting with people from all walks of life. However, beneath the surface, there were warning signs that McFarland might not be what he seemed. Despite his questionable business practices, Billy McFarland had many people rooting for him, drawn to his charisma and the promise of revolutionizing the music industry. His relatability and likability stemmed from his humble beginnings, and people were eager to give him a second chance, often ignoring the red flags in the process. McFarland's charm and likability made it difficult for people to see the reality behind his facade, causing them to turn a blind eye to his questionable business tactics. McFarland's ability to form close relationships with people who looked up to him, including Ja Rule, made people trust him, not realizing the depths of his deception. People often say that you are the company you keep, and in this case, McFarland kept company with some of the most influential people in the music industry. As the months leading up to the infamous Fyre Festival began, McFarland's business empire seemed to be on the rise. He had secured significant funding for his startup, Fyre Media, and was making plans for his ambitious music festival, which was supposed to revolutionize the music industry. McFarland was on top of the world, seemingly unstoppable, but little did anyone know, the seeds of destruction were being sown beneath the surface. His relationships, once so strong and supportive, were about to be put to the test, and some of those closest to him would eventually discover the truth about McFarland's deceitful nature. But just how far would he go to protect his empire, and who would be the first to expose his sinister plans? It's a sunny April day in 2017, a perfect backdrop for the supposed luxury music festival in the Bahamas, but little did attendees know, chaos was just around the corner. The event was supposed to kick off in just a few hours, with thousands of people already on their way to the island. Temperatures had reached the mid-70s, a welcome respite from the chilly winter months. But beneath the surface, things were far from perfect. McFarland, the mastermind behind Fyre Festival, had a reputation for charm and charisma, but a trail of deceit was waiting to unfold. The seeds of Fyre Festival were sown in 2016, when McFarland teamed up with rapper Ja Rule to create the Fyre Music app, designed to connect artists with bookers. However, the venture quickly ran into financial trouble, and McFarland saw an opportunity to revive the project by hosting a music festival. Investors were lured in with promises of profit and exposure, but little did they know, McFarland had no concrete plans in place. He had convinced investors to part with $27.4 million, claiming the festival would be a game-changer. Meanwhile, the logistics team was struggling to secure talent, staffing, and accommodations. As the first attendees arrived at the festival site, they were greeted by a sight that was far from luxury. Instead of the high-end villas promised, they found ramshackle tents and makeshift accommodations. The food, which had been advertised as gourmet, was little more than cheese sandwiches and salads. The stage was set for disaster, and McFarland's team was struggling to keep up with the demand. As the clock ticked closer to the scheduled start time, it became clear that something had gone terribly wrong. And then, there was the jaw-dropping fact that McFarland had been selling tickets to the festival for up to $125,000 each, with VIP packages going for a staggering $400,000. But that wasn't all. He had also convinced investors to part with $27.4 million, promising a return on investment that never materialized. The scale of McFarland's deception is staggering, and it's a wonder that he was able to get away with it for so long. The question on everyone's mind is, how did he manage to pull off such an elaborate scheme? As the news of the festival's collapse spread, attendees took to social media to express their outrage and disappointment. "I just got to the island and it's a disaster," one attendee tweeted. "The accommodations are terrible and the food is disgusting." Others shared photos of the squalid conditions, using hashtags like Fyre Festival and fraud. Comment below, what do you think really happened here? Was McFarland's Fyre Festival a case of hubris and poor planning, or was it something more sinister? As we dig deeper into the story, we'll uncover the shocking truth behind McFarland's scheme. We'll speak to those who were closest to him, and examine the evidence that will reveal the extent of his deception. The full scale of what occurred at Fyre Festival will soon become clear, and it won't be pretty. But for now, the question on everyone's mind remains, what really happened at Fyre Festival? Stay tuned for part 2 of our investigation, where we'll explore the web of deceit and corruption that led to this disaster. As police first responded to the chaos surrounding Fyre Festival, they dispatched units to the Bahamas, where the festival was originally supposed to take place, to assess the situation and provide assistance to stranded attendees. Once on the scene, authorities encountered a disorganized mess of unfinished construction, inadequate infrastructure, and a general air of chaos. The police were met with a mix of frustration and fear from attendees, many of whom had paid large sums of money for luxury accommodations that never materialized. Emergency services were quickly overwhelmed, and the local government was forced to intervene to address the crisis. The scene was a stark contrast to the high-end, exclusive experience that attendees had been promised. The key piece of evidence that changed everything turned out to be a series of emails and messages between McFarland and his team, detailing the massive scale of the financial deception and the outright lies told to investors. These communications revealed a trail of financial mismanagement, inflated estimates, and intentional deception that went all the way to the top of the Fyre Festival organization. As investigators delved deeper into the emails, they uncovered a complex web of deceit that went far beyond a simple festival planning error. The evidence pointed to a deliberate scam, designed to bilk unsuspecting investors out of millions of dollars. The emails were a smoking gun, and they marked a turning point in the investigation. The main suspects in the case were McFarland and his business partner, Ja Rule, who had partnered with McFarland to launch the festival. However, as the investigation progressed, it became clear that McFarland was the mastermind behind the operation, and Ja Rule was largely a pawn in his financial schemes. The two had been friends for years, and Ja Rule had been brought on board to help promote the festival and attract high-profile talent. McFarland had a history of questionable business practices, and Ja Rule had a reputation for being reckless with his finances. Together, they had created a perfect storm of financial mismanagement and intentional deception. The red herring of the investigation turned out to be a tip about a group of disgruntled workers who had threatened to sabotage the festival, leading investigators to waste months chasing down a lead that ultimately went nowhere. The workers had indeed been unhappy with their working conditions and low wages, but they had never had any intention of causing the kind of chaos that actually occurred. By focusing on this lead, investigators were distracted from the real issue of McFarland's financial mismanagement, leading to a significant delay in their investigation. The tip had come from a credible source, but it was based on speculation and rumor, rather than hard evidence. The failure to verify the information before chasing it down was a critical mistake that ultimately hindered the investigation. It's a shocking twist in the Fyre Festival saga that left many stunned, including its investors and attendees. Billy McFarland, the mastermind behind the ill-fated event, announced plans for a second Fyre Festival 2 in 2025, only to have it postponed indefinitely due to multiple irregularities uncovered by the New York Times. This move has raised eyebrows and sparked a heated debate on whether McFarland is truly remorseful for his past actions or if he's still trying to capitalize on the Fyre brand. The Fyre Festival 2 tickets were sold at an astonishing $1.1 million each, further fueling speculation about McFarland's intentions. Fans have taken to social media to express their outrage, with many calling it a desperate attempt to revive his reputation. The revelation has also shed light on McFarland's questionable business tactics, which seem to be unchanged even after serving time in federal prison. McFarland's announcement of Fyre Festival 2 was met with widespread skepticism, with many questioning how he managed to secure such expensive tickets despite being